Okay, so here we go again. Before I get into today's news, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll start with this. Will America riot once the Chauvin trial ends? Yes. I mean, there's no doubt. Um, we know that if Chauvin isn't convicted of murder, that there's definitely going to be riots. It's going to be mass riots. It's going to get bad. I've been saying get out, really get out of cities, even if for only a little while. But recently, Sean King and a bunch of other people, BLM activists, have said yes, there will be riots. So they're now they're telling you, right? Um, it's gonna be ugly. Um, they, you know, it's gonna be it's gonna be bad. You know, recently I did a video where Antifa, they've been waiting for the riots to start. They're excited about this trial coming to an end. You know, they're not as stupid as they seem. The Democrats have been waiting for the riots to start so that, basically so they can get money. I mean, BLM raised a lot of money, gave a lot of money to Democrats. So it's going to be it's going to be bad because if you've been following this trial, he's he's not getting convicted. They already know that it's out there now that the drug dealer or whatever, he's not going to testify. Smart on him, he's not going to testify, incriminate himself. So, you know, but there's definitely going to be riots. It's going to get bad. This trial is going to be about the end of the month. But in other news, there's reports circulating on social media that Chinese troops and hardware have been building up on the Myanmar border since March 30th. So the Chinese have been building up their military right on the border, much like the way that Russia has. So, I mean, it definitely seems like we're heading towards a world war of some kind. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And I had to share this article because this is a good article. Mask wearing represents fear and blind obedience, not science. When I see people walking outside, often alone, with no one else near them wearing a mask, my primary reactions are disappointment and sadness. Have you ever seen the people driving around by themselves with with wearing a mask? To be in the car by themselves wearing a mask. It's you know, it goes on to say, I expected better from my fellow Americans and never thought most Americans would be governed by irrational fears and unquestioning obedience to authority. He says, had you told me a year ago that nearly every American in nearly every metropolitan area would cover their face for over a year because one man, one political party, and the media told them to, I would have responded that you underestimate the strength of the American character. But here we are. And where I live in LA, I'm usually the only person on the street not wearing a mask. On the rare occasions I pass people not wearing a mask, I thank and praise them. They are invariably enthused by my reaction. You know, none of this really doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. The whole thing with the masks. I just, I think this guy does a good job, but they want you to wear these masks in complete defiance of any kind of science. Recently, Texas, they did away with their mask mandate. It's been a month now, and cases are going down. Florida's been the same way for a while. That they make all these rules. They won't let you visit certain people in nursing homes. Why? If you wear a mask and it works, then why would that be an issue? But it was never about. It was never about. They try to make it. They try to paint people who aren't wearing a mask like they're killing people and this and that. But reality reality says otherwise. Especially when they're like recently Ted Cruz was speaking, and they were trying members of the media were trying to tell him to put his mask on, and he's like, I got vaccinated. Why would I do that? You know, it was if you get the point of being vaccinated, is so you don't get the disease you were vaccinated for. So why would you need to continue to wear a mask? It, it's it's pretty absurd, but so it's not about protecting people. Most people don't we don't have any problem with protecting people, but it's not about that, and it's been proven that it's not about that. You know, like he said, it may irritate my not wearing a mask may irritate you because you resent my assertion of freedom and my lack of respect for government and medical authorities. You know, I, people think that it blows me away that there's Democrats that think they are the resistance. You know, it's I had to highlight this because of that article. You know, according to Ted Cruz, none of the 500 top performing companies are run by Republican aligned CEOs says a lot about the politics of prosperity in the market, right? When not a single Fortune 500 leader agrees with your politics, you might not represent their best interest. Um, yeah. Since when were, it used to be that Republicans were the party of big corporations, but not so much anymore. Maybe not ever. I don't know. You know, pre-Obama, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention, but you know, so Ted Cruz responds, lefties think this is an insult to the GOP. Today's Dems are the party of big business, big tech, big Hollywood, big unions, big government. Republicans are the party of the little guy. And I disagree with that too, with that assertion that, the GOP is the party of the little guy. 99% of Republicans go right along with, it's. I tweeted back. I said, they're they're not the party of the little guy just because there's a very tiny fraction of a percent of good R's in DC. The rest are just bad actors pretending to be opposition. The vast majority of Americans have zero representation, haven't for a long time, and that's true. There's there's not too many politicians that actually represent what their constituents would want. Very, very few. You know, it's it seems to be slowly getting a little bit, tiny bit better. But still, it's getting a little bit better on the state level. But even that's just you know, it's just trying to placate the right populist movement that has taken over the GOP. So, but I I reject that the GOP the is the party of the little guy. Yeah, they're trying to, but in a few states like Texas and Florida, you know, have been getting it right. You know, and I think that it's other there's a couple of people. Ted Cruz, he does a couple of decent things once in a while, but for the most part, most Republicans are spineless and they don't do anything. They don't help anybody but themselves, and they're just bad actors. They pretend to be opposition. They're not really doing anything. You know, the Turtle Man comes out from his shell every once in a while and says something. You know, and I always see people instantly clap. People on the right instantly start clapping for him. You know, it's 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 not good. But yeah, these people that have aligned themselves now with Fortune 500 companies, you're not the resistance. You know, if you're on the side of Twitter and Facebook and Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Walmart, you know, since when were I don't know. Used to be that there were leftists that were opposed to companies like Walmart and you know shit like that, but not anymore. But in other news, recent Kate Brown expressed sympathy for Antifa gunman Michael Reinl. The governor says it was a priority for her to eradicate federal law enforcement from her state during the riots. Well, I'm going to play this video.
Portland, Oregon, 100-day protests that we saw against the racism and police brutality that culminated in a death squad-style assassination by U.S. Marshals of the anti-fascist activist Michael Reinl. Can you talk about this?
Absolutely. The actions of the Trump administration were abysmal and absolutely abhorrent in this state. And we worked with our local law enforcement to eradicate these forces from our state. We want to make sure that Oregonians can continually to peacefully protest, to uphold those voices that ask for change. And we will continue to support those efforts to eradicate racism from our institutions, from our structures, and from our systems.
Portland, Oregon.
You know, I don't know how anybody could still be, how anybody could stand to be a cop in Oregon anymore. Just in the state in general. I mean, but especially in Portland. I know I did a video, because yesterday, where they some of the people that quit shared their frustration with Portland and the things that have been going on there. But onto a big story, at least one that's it's been flying under the radar. But I had say Capitol riot defendant alleges beating by jail guards. Tensions are running high between guards and inmates. Myself and others. So Ronald Sandlin put out a statement. Myself and others involved in the January 6th incident are scared for their lives, not from each other, but from correctional officers. I don't understand how this is remotely acceptable, saying he was subjected to mental torture. Another Capitol riot defendant, Ryan Samsel, was severely beaten by correctional officers, is now blind in one eye, has a skull fracture and detached retina. He also described racial tension between minority guards and the largely white defendants, some of whom have been publicly accused of membership in or association with white supremacist groups. They tackled one Richard Barnett, 60, who was photographed with his boot up on a desk in Nancy Pelosi's office. And one of the guards declared, "I hate all white people and your honky religion." The three defendants raising alarms are charged with a wide range of crimes. Sandlin, who posted images of himself smoking a joint in the Capitol Rotunda, is accused of tussling with multiple U.S. Capitol police officers. Barnett is charged with entering the Capitol armed with a stun gun, entering Pelosi's office, and putting his feet on the furniture, as well as stealing a piece of mail from her office. Now, um, yeah, he shouldn't have. He shouldn't have had a stun gun, but is that bad of a crime to put his feet up on on Nancy Pelosi's desk? Is that big of a crime? Um, Defense attorneys for Samsel and Barnett confirmed the episodes described in court, which they said they learned about from their clients, family members, and other attorneys. There's a pattern of abuse and of targeting of the defendants who are being held pursuant to what happened on January 6th. So, a lawyer for Stephen McClaff, a lawyer for Samsel, said that after his client complained last month about slow delivery of toilet paper, he was zip tied, moved to a cell outside the view of surveillance cameras, and brutally beaten by guards. I've seen Ryan. He has 2 black eyes to this day. 2 weeks later, all the skin is ripped off both wrists, which shows zip ties and how tight they were. Other inmates said his face looked like a tomato that was stomped on. So, basically, um, basically, these people are being tortured. They're being tortured. This isn't. This is. This is fucking horrible. When are people gonna wake up and do something about this? You know, I mean, and this is supposed to be the greatest country in the world. This shit is not supposed to happen. This is not supposed to happen here in America. You hear about things like this in, in Russia, China, you know, places with horrible records of human right abuses. This doesn't happen here. You know, but man, I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's got to be a point where people wake up to this shit, because you know this stuff should not be happening here. Just like I said it, I talked about in my last video, the people rioting in the St. Louis jail, in the city jail or whatever. Some of the people have been there for a long time with no trial, and it's the same thing here. Democrats, these, you know, these Democrat-controlled areas are really good at locking people up indefinitely with no trial, and now they're torturing people. Come on, right or left, dude? This shit's got to stop. There's got to be a point where you don't have to agree with what happened to see that people should not be tortured. What a guy put his foot up on Nancy Pelosi's desk, and now he's getting tortured in a DC jail. Come on, that's not the kind of shit that. Scott Thomas. What the fuck? Why aren't we protesting on his behalf? We suck at defending our own. You know, not even that. Not even our own. I mean, you could disagree with what they did, but goddamn it, people need to start fucking protesting this shit. This is fucking insane. They're torturing people here in America. They are torturing people in jail, locked up indefinitely, no trial date. You know, denied bail, tortured. Is this the country that we want to fucking be? This is America. This is what people want. You know, just like leads me to my next story. In Russia, Navalny's doctors arrested outside Russian prison. So his doctor showed up. I guess he's been on a hunger strike. Dozens of Russians rallied in support of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Outside the prison where he's being held on Tuesday, a team of medics, led by his personal doctor, arrived at the prison. However, the administration refused to let them in. Shortly after, a group of protesters arrived at the prison, demanding doctors be given access to him. We understand that his condition is a little bit better. We understand his medical condition a little bit better than the prison administration. His doctor said, "Here's our plan to talk to the chief correctional officer, to talk to the prison medic, and to come up with a solution to provide treatment to him so that he ends his hunger strike, because what's going on is bad for his health." After a brief standoff, the doctors and several protesters were arrested by local police, citing security concerns. Now, the Russian opposition is now planning a major nationwide strike to demand his release in coming weeks. You know, they've been and we aren't doing any better. We aren't doing any better than them. Anyway, in Chauvin trial, defense now has evidence that the drug dealer of George Floyd may be responsible for his death. So, Robert Barnes is a good lawyer. Yeah, there's a reason why that he's not going to the drug dealer is not going to testify. So, but people aren't reading that. The media has been putting out this whole thing where they only talk about what the the things that the prosecution is saying, more or less, right? They're only painting one side, so that when people are going to be shocked when Chauvin ends up walking and they're going to riot. Now, I don't know if this is intentional. It certainly seems that way, because they, what do they care, right? But in other news, gun control has been racist. Black Guns Matter activists explain why there's a surge in firearms sales to black Americans. Now, I'll stop you right there. I can tell you exactly why there's a surge in. I mean, there's a few reasons, but why African Americans are um, buying up guns. There's a lot of different reasons. They know that the riots are coming. Some people want to defend themselves. Some people, you know, might have other ideas. I don't know. Can't speak to every single person, but I would say that they're aware that the riots are incoming, and people are they're basically on their own there. You know, maybe they can't move for whatever XYZ whatever reason, but maybe they take their stimulus money and go buy a gun. Makes sense. Um, the reason for the surge in the black community is because the black community is seeing that you shouldn't depend on the government. Great, awesome, finally, thank God. You know, you, it's known not to trust the government. Everybody knows. I mean, unless you're a Democrat and you blindly trust the government, but most normal people know that you don't uh, you don't trust the government. And they're realizing that Biden is not on their side when it comes to gun rights. And he locked up nonviolent felons. A lot of he made a lot of he passed he helped pass things to lock up um disproportionately lock up black men who now can't purchase firearms. You know, um, so yeah. See, it's ironic they say they want to help black and brown communities. However, you're using this racist concept of gun control, and now we're seeing black women being the largest purchasers of firearms because they're not targeted in the war on drugs for nonviolent drug offenses. Good. I mean, it's good to see that there's people in these communities that are realizing the government is not going to save you. The police are being defunded. They're not going to do anything to help you anyway. Most of the times, they're not gonna do anything other than come at you for not wearing a mask. That's about it. So, and the pastor who went viral, he's exclusive, just like the communists. He Pastor Pawlowski, you know, Polish, um, went viral after kicking several officers out of his church. Spoke to the Daily Caller about the months of harassment he says his church has experienced at the hands of police. And they entered the church building uninvited on its holiest, most anticipated day for parishioners, he told the caller. He claims he's been harassed by authorities for 13 months. He has asked repeatedly that officials not enter the church building in their capacity as law enforcement or harass and intimidate the parishioners. If they want to talk or inspect the building, they can call me and we can arrange that. But instead of meeting with him, he said they preferred a method of storming. Instead of arranging a meeting, they just wanted to walk in the middle of worship. He was shocked officials to see the officials act as if the church was like their home. After telling them to leave, he grabbed his phone and began recording. And, we know he was yelling at them. Calgary police said the organizer of the gathering was uncooperative with the health inspector and repeatedly raised his voice, asking all parties to leave the premises, which they did approximately 1 minute after entering in a peaceful manner. I know this is Canada, but don't they have some kind of rule about separation of church and state? Why is the state barging into a church for any reason? So he said he was shaken because he was not expecting them to interfere with the church on Passover. Once the officials left, he told the caller they did not come back and didn't give him any tickets or contact him at all. But he said some police officers came up to him on the street feeling ashamed for their colleagues and told him this was bad. There was no need for something like this. But are they going to do anything about it? It's one thing for the cops to be like, yeah, that was messed up. And then, the next day those same cops are harassing somebody else. They're kicking in the door at some other church. Whatever. He said this is unacceptable. Even during the times of the Middle Ages, the knights were commanded to leave their swords outside the church. They were not allowed to enter the church, but these days nothing is holy for these people. They just walk in like it's a restaurant. Yeah, at one time they blocked the parking lot so that parishioners could not enter. So the concern was that people in attendance were not adhering to the government's public health orders. The Calgary police said, again, Canada, state and church. I mean, is there no law? According to a statement, Calgary police were asked to attend some calls in an effort to keep the peace due to high levels of conflict between citizens and health inspectors. They said, the pastor said, I grew up in Poland under the boot of the Soviets behind the Iron Curtain. What I see right now, I see everything escalating, moving to the new level. They're acting just like the communists were acting when I was growing up. And the pastors and the priests were arrested and some were murdered. Many were tortured. So that's what I have to say, because I see a repetition of history. And he's right. I've been saying it. But that's why I've been doing this. I've been trying to, seriously, I've been trying to warn people about this. We've got this. We've got, people are being tortured in DC jails. In Washington, D.C., the capital of our nation, there are people right now being tortured. For, we're right on it's a countdown to riots. Much like much like the LA riots and what happened there. You know, it's gonna be bad. Except this time, it's not just LA; it's gonna be everywhere. You know, they say we go through these. I did a video about the fourth turning and how we go through these cycles, and we're right there again. Oh, I think people need to get ready because it's not going to get any better. If you're in Canada, I really feel sorry for you, but we're not far behind you down here. So I'm gonna leave it there though.